Donald Trump gave two horrific speeches this weekend, one in Washington, D.C., one in Philly. He had to get a Philly cheesesteak from a location whose owner is currently incarcerated as a felon for tax fraud. Of course, all Donald Trump does is hang out with other felons now to try to normalize criminality. And then Donald Trump gave that horrible speech where he said that he believes President Biden's going to come out to the debate jacked up on drugs after getting injected in the ass with medication. I think Donald Trump is telling on himself right there. All day, Donald Trump and his surrogates have been talking about why Donald Trump should cancel the debate, how the debate's going to be rigged, that it's going to be unfair, that Jake Tapper and the moderators are not going to be treating Donald Trump the right way. We've heard that the entire day over and over again. We told you they would be ramping up the excuses. That's what they are doing. We will keep you posted, of course, if there's any breaking news on that front. There was a great deal of breaking news today about Judge Eileen Cannon. She held a full day of court hearings where she behaved like an absolute lunatic. She was just yelling at the special counsel's office for no reason over and over again. She would say things like, "Don't you dare cut me off," or "How dare you say that," over the most frivolous motions that Donald Trump was bringing. One motion declaring that the appropriations that special counsel Jack Smith's office were paid was an unlawful appropriation. That's like something that is clear precedent that the special counsel's office can get appropriations from money allocated to the Department of Justice. But she used that as an opportunity just to randomly yell at special counsel Jack Smith's team. And then she also yelled at special counsel Jack Smith's team for pointing out that Donald Trump was lying about being the target of assassination by the FBI and the Department of Justice. Special counsel Jack Smith's like, Donald Trump is lying and claiming that the general use of force policy means that the DOJ and FBI are trying to hunt him down and kill him. That is false, and that is creating grave danger for our agents because Trump's violent followers think that Trump's trying to be actively assassinated, so they're going after our agents. Judge Cannon's like, I don't see anything wrong with that. What's wrong with what Donald Trump's saying? We redacted the names of the FBI agents. That should be sufficient, and be quiet. Just started yelling at Jack Smith's team. It was really strange, really unhinged. A lot like Donald Trump's behavior at those events was the way that she was acting. She was clearly performing for him. Also, we learned that business leaders are running away from Donald Trump. A dean at Yale Business School was mentioning today that not a single one of the Fortune 500 CEOs is at least outwardly supporting Donald Trump or providing any contributions. Normally, you would see 60 to 70% support publicly and contributions for a Republican candidate. At this time, none of that has been seen thus far. And there's been a number of congressional budget reports showing that Donald Trump's plan on trying to fund our government entirely through tariffs would basically create an economic depression, like duh. Also, an analysis showing that the debt that Donald Trump accrued while in office was significantly higher than any debt that President Biden accrued. I mean, at the same time, I think we know that that's obvious. Trump added more than 30% of all debt in the history of the United States. China trade war was inherently inflationary, as was his reckless printing of money and not having any oversight over the PPP loans that were given out, oftentimes to rich people who had their loans forgiven, who probably didn't need them in the first place, while people who really did need them weren't getting them, and there were really no safeguards in that program. So all of that were the source of inflation. So folks, we're headed to this debate. We're just a few days away. The MeidasTouch Network is going to have incredible pre-coverage with special guests, so make sure you tune in to the MeidasTouch Network for the pre-coverage and post-coverage. But, it's interesting to see right now, is Donald Trump going to debate or not? Certainly, Brett and Jordy, they're ratcheting up that rhetoric, the conspiracies, it's rigged, it's unfair. That's what they do all the time.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems like he wants to get out of the debate, and he may realize now that he's kind of boxed in because it's now only days away, and he knows how badly it would look if he were to back out. But certainly, all the people in his orbit seem to be trying to get him out of this debate. And the constant excuses that they're making for somebody who claims that their opponent is unable to even speak, it makes you think, why are they so afraid to debate President Biden? I mean, the whole thing is just so transparent. They're looking for any other ways to kind of try to either work the refs, so to speak, or to just blame everything on, oh, well, it was CNN, it's fake news, what are you going to do? But no excuses, okay? People are going to be watching. Your guy should be prepared, just like President Biden is currently prepared. I want to say up top as well, I want to say congratulations to Michael Popak, newest addition to the MeidasTouch family. That's right. Michael Popak officially had his kid. Am I allowed to show the picture? He posted it on social media.
I don't know.
So
He posted on social media. He's not
posted on social media. So, okay. So let's do it. There we have the picture, everybody, of Michael Popak's daughter, Francesca Popak, born today, 7 pounds, 7 ounces, 21 inches. Congratulations, Natasha. Congratulations, Michael Popak. They're always very exciting to get a new addition to the Meidas Mighty. I know a lot of folks, we got some emails about, did Popak have the baby yet today? So I needed to make sure that folks were updated. And speaking of dad,
Francesca starts her role as a correspondent tomorrow, is from what I hear.
Yeah. We start them young. They got to get right to it. Doing some perhaps some hot takes.
A legal take tomorrow on Judge Cannon's corruption.
Yeah. I think that's at least day one. You know, that's what they mean by starting from day one. Jordy, speaking of dads, what's up, man?
What's up? I'm doing great, brothers. Excited to get into the show. I want to use my time right now just to remind folks, because I usually do this at the end of the show, but because we are ramping up our coverage here at the MeidasTouch Network, the MeidasTouch Podcast, daily podcast. So if you're on the go and you can't get to YouTube, just remember that you're subscribed, or if you're not, subscribe now to the audio feeds, because we're putting the Ben hot takes and the daily hits onto the MeidasTouch Podcast feed. So make sure you're subscribed there as well.
And by the way, if you wanted to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, hey, we'd be totally cool with that as well. Awesome. And so Thursday, I'll also just say on top, Ben said we're going to have special debate coverage, the pre-show and a post-show. That'll probably start for the folks who watch live on YouTube, probably slightly earlier than usual, so we have a bit more time. Programming note. So make sure you check our feed earlier that day than normal. It'll probably be around 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on Thursday, so that we could get in all the guests we want and get all the coverage before we go. Ben.
Look, the difference between the preparation for the debate could not be more stark between President Biden and Donald Trump. President Biden is preparing, and Donald Trump is whining about the debate, right? President Biden's at Camp David, spending time doing what presidential candidates and presidents who are running for re-election do. They surround themselves with a team of people, and they prepare for the questions, and they go through it together, and they go through it for a number of days. On the other hand, Donald Trump has launched a multi-prong attack at the debate, at why the debate's going to be rigged, why the moderators are going to be rigged, why it's all going to be unfair, and why it is that he's going to lose. So let's take a look at all the times Donald Trump has just said things were rigged. We can just show that list right there. This debate is rigged. The 2020 election's rigged. The 2022 election, guess what? That was rigged according to Donald Trump. The Academy Awards, we didn't put this on the list though, but Donald Trump claims the Emmys were rigged. The Pulitzers are rigged. The Trump University case and all of his cases are rigged, like the E. Jean Carroll trial, which he said was rigged, and the judge in all of his cases are all rigged. The election lawsuits, all of them, even including in front of the judges who he appointed, rigged. Criminal trials rigged. Rudy Giuliani's trial rigged. Bannon and Navarro trials also rigged. The January 6th committee rigged. January 6th itself, according to Donald Trump, was rigged and caused by Nancy Pelosi, not him, although he believes that those who were involved in it were also patriots who he wants to sing songs with, like the J6 Choir. The civil fraud trial was rigged. All the polls that don't show him ahead now, which are a lot of them, are rigged. Everything in Donald Trump's world is rigged. And not only that, but like the people involved are, if they beat him, they're on drugs or they're on performance enhancing stuff in order to get them to beat him. That's the only way he could lose. That's part of the kind of fascist frame. The only way I could be defeated is because things are all rigged and there is a cabal behind the scenes, and that's why they are coming for us. I mean, some of this stuff is just Looney Tunes. Like, again, I was on the debate team in high school. I ran a Toastmasters public speaking organization.
Look at this guy.
And so I took part in lots of debates. I've never heard anybody, like even at the college level or high school level or middle school level, say the reason that they lost a debate is because of performance enhancing drugs by the opponent. You know what? They must be getting injections of Provigil in their ass. But that was the message that has been pushed by Donald Trump and his surrogates every single day. So prong one of the Trump attack on the debate is say President Biden's on drugs, because they need some excuse after all of the lies that they've told about President Biden's cognitive abilities, which were mere projection and confession about Donald Trump's potential dementia. They need to explain, why does President Biden do good at the State of the Union when people watch him? Why does President Biden do good at all of these speeches when all of the public's watching, but then when Fox clips it, all of a sudden that's when he doesn't do what's happening there? Drugs, it's got to be Provigil. So here's Donald Trump's post. Let's pull that up. Here's what he posted today. Donald Trump says that drug test for crooked Joe Biden, I would also immediately agree to one. So that's part of the excuses he's putting up there. Also, he had his doctor, Trump's doctor, who he refers to as Dr. Ronnie Johnson. That's his name is Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who, by the way, the bipartisan Congressional Ethics Committee today announced that they are launching an official investigation into his behavior and his conduct. The nature of the alleged violation that was announced a little bit earlier before we started the show is that Representative Ronnie Jackson's campaign committee, Texans for Ronnie Jackson, reported campaign disbursements that may not be legitimate and verifiable campaign expenditures attributable to bona fide campaign or political purposes. They kept it kind of vague there, but I believe it's about potential expenditures for lavish personal items or potentially like country clubs and things like that, although they will conduct a thorough investigation. Also, we should remember that Ronnie Jackson was demoted as a member in the military after an investigation into his behavior when he was the White House doctor revealed that he was basically turning the White House into a pill mill, that he was potentially and on multiple occasions drunk on the job, and that he was abusive to colleagues and his behavior towards others was offensive. So this is an individual who, when you see him do interviews, he's often very sweaty and he looks like he's going through a lot of issues. He was someone who was censured by the military for potentially being drunk on the job. And, you know, that's one of the ways these people fall into MAGA, is that when they refuse to accept accountability, there he is right there, for their actions, because you did it, rather than being an adult and saying, I did it, let me get some help, let me improve, let me figure it out. They go, oh, it's a cabal. The cabal is against me. So he fits right into that kind of MAGA entryway of either, you know, losers or people who commit crimes or engage in bad behavior, or people who have lost their career who see this as a way to grift and revive their career, or people who just crave the reality TV-like attention. But here he is over the weekend. This may as well be a confession for Trump, but Ronnie Jackson saying, he goes on Fox, so they act like this is like a real, like a real interview. Like, oh, we're speaking to a doctor. And he goes, I think that what could be happening here is that President Biden could be injecting himself with Provigil. Here, play this clip.
Those drugs are out there. They treat the cognition part of it. They try to, make it where he can think straighter and he's not lost and confused as much. And then there's drugs that actually just increase alertness, like Adderall and other types of amphetamine type drugs, maybe Provigil, things like that. And then there's a host of drugs that try to take the agitated edge off of most of these cognitive disorders. So I feel like they're probably giving him a little bit of all of this. They just have to get it just right. They all have different times of onset. They have different duration. They interact with each other. So it's it's a challenge, but I think they have no choice with what they're working with. They don't have much to work with.
Just think about how reckless, careless, malicious, defamatory, irresponsible that is from a network that was already found essentially liable for defamation and had to reach a settlement because the case was basically just about the damages for $1 billion, close to $1 billion, that they're platforming someone who was demoted for his own personal behavior, who's like giving a diagnosis based on absolutely nothing at all. I mean, it's horrific. Here, Dr. Ronnie Jackson is talking about Biden, but it sounds like yet another admission of what he does with Donald Trump. Let's play this clip.
I feel like this is probably what's going on over this week at Camp David. He's going to be at Camp David for a full week before the debate. Part of that is probably experimenting with, just getting the doses just right because, they have to treat his cognition. They have to give him something to help him think straighter. They have to give him something to wake him up, for his alertness. And then, he's been agitated. We see that all the time, and that's a common symptom or sign of this cognitive disorder that he seems to be suffering from. And so they're probably going to give him something to take the edge off that as well. They didn't get it right just last time at the State of the Union. He came out, he was obviously much more alert, but he was a yelling, angry old man, and he still didn't make a lot of sense. So I think they've got an uphill battle here, but I think that they're going to have to do something to try to wake him up and make him perform a little better during the debate.
Just think about it. While the MAGA Republicans and Trump are continuing to say things like that, do you hear any of that from President Biden and the pro-democracy network? Now, you could agree or disagree with President Biden on policy, but what President Biden and his surrogates are talking about is not attacking the debate. What they're focused on is why the debate is going to be unfair. What they're focused on is our policies and what we're going to do to help the American people. This was over the weekend where Donald Trump was discussing the debates, and you'll see that this is all part of a concerted plan and effort to attack the debate. And again, we're on prong one right now, attack the debate by saying President Biden is on drugs. Here's Donald Trump saying it when he was speaking this weekend at one of these disastrous speeches that he gave. Play this clip.
Because they want to get him good and strong, so a little before debate time, he gets a shot in the ass, and that's... They want to strengthen him up. So he comes out. He'll come out. I say he'll come out all jacked up, right? All jacked up.
And they use that same language over and over again. Jacked up. They're going to give him a shot in the ass. I mean, obviously, that's projection as well. Take a look at this was part of the Department of Defense Inspector General's report into the pill mill that was the White House when Ronnie Jackson, or as Donald Trump calls him, Ronnie Jackson, who apparently administers cognitive tests or dementia tests to Donald Trump like every other month that Donald Trump spends copious amounts of time in his speeches discussing. But this is just a small sample of the types of drugs that were freely given out like candy at the White House. And this is just one page of it, okay, from a very short period of time. And what you'll notice is that there are copious amounts of morphine, fentanyl patches, Versed, which is also known as the date rape drug, ketamine, Ambien, Provigil. Add up all that Provigil, there's over 4,000 pills of Provigil that were handed out in this short period.
Wow, I wonder what made Ronnie Jackson think about that exact drug when he was on Fox, huh?
Exactly. So prong one is attack President Biden for being on drugs, and that's why he's going to be a superior debater. Attack two, attack the moderators, say that it's rigged. And so, this is one of the issues about having Trump people show up on your network and trying to do the both sides thing, because the Trump people are never there in good faith. They're there to always do a stunt. So Casey Hunt, the host on CNN, had Caroline Leavitt, Donald Trump's spokesperson, come on the show today. And if Casey Hunt thought that they were going to have a discussion about what the plan was, what Trump was going to talk about, that's not what Trump's people wanted to do. They were there to go and say this was unfair and that CNN's going to treat them terribly. and watch what unfolds. Play the clip.
Themselves as professionals, as they have covered campaigns and interviewed candidates from all sides of the aisle. I'll also say that if you talk to analysts of debates previous, that if you're attacking the moderators, you're usually losing. So I really want to focus in on what these two men are going to do and say when they stand on the stage. Now, we have a little bit of what Donald Trump, your boss, has said in trying to set expectations for this debate. I want to play a series of his comments, and then we'll talk about it. Watch.
Well, maybe I'm better off losing the debate. I'll make sure he says I'll lose the debate on purpose. Maybe I'll do something like that. I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. Should I be tough and nasty and just say you're the worst president in history? Or should I be nice and calm and let him speak?
So he's basically saying there, well, will I let Joe Biden win? It does seem as though many Republicans have set the bar very low in terms of arguing that Joe Biden is basically senile. Now you have people like Doug Burgum coming out and saying, well, President Biden's very accomplished, trying to set expectations in a different place. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently,
we're going to stop this interview if you're going to keep
President
attacking
Trump
my colleagues.
Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you
I'm
continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate. Our thanks to Caroline.
You know, one of the things he then wrote on you come on my show, you respect my colleagues, period. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on, as my track record clearly shows. And the one thing I want to just point out there is that I don't believe you have surrogates of President Biden going on these shows and saying anything remotely like that. Yet what they try to do when they both sides it is to show a Biden policy, or maybe they want to attack President Biden for, I don't know, a small stutter in a speech of 2 hours so that they can both sides the issue. Because even though Casey Hunt stood up there to Donald Trump's surrogate, that's part of the working the ref. And then Casey Hunt now feels that she's got to, look, if I'm going to be fair to these Trump people, I got to show what I'm being to the Biden people who are speaking in the language of democracy. Brett and Jordy, I want to talk about that more with you. I want to get your thoughts on that because I've been blabbering for a long time already. I want to remind everybody, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. If you want to help support the growth of this independent media platform, we will be announcing soon another exclusive Zoom meeting where you can meet me and my brothers. And look, you see the growth of this network, and that's thanks to you. And one of the ways you contribute, and we're grateful for it, is patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We continue to grow the infrastructure there through our pro-democracy sponsors, are just some of the ways we help continue to grow. Let's hear from those pro-democracy sponsors, and let's talk more when we come back. A lot to discuss. Let's go to break. Have you heard of NAD+? It's a molecule in every cell of your body, and it's critical to aging well. NAD+ helps keep us feeling youthful by promoting cellular energy, maintaining healthy DNA using nutrients efficiently, and supporting detoxification. By age 50, most people's NAD+ levels are only half of what they were at age 20. Falling NAD+ levels is a major reason that signs of aging start to accelerate. Luckily, science has discovered a way to boost your NAD+ levels up to 50%. It's called Qualia NAD+, a groundbreaking supplement from Qualia. Many doctors and health experts over age 30 use Qualia NAD+ themselves, and I'm proud to have them sponsor this episode. NAD+ is a large molecule that struggles to be bioavailable if you supplement it directly. That's why Qualia NAD+ supports NAD+ the right way by including ingredients called NAD+ precursors that your body can convert into NAD+ to boost your body's own NAD plus production up to 50%. That's great. These are vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free ingredients like niacin, niacinamide, niagen, also known as NR. These are 3 of the most well-researched NAD plus precursors, and all 3 are in Qualia NAD plus to maximize your body's NAD plus production. Qualia NAD Plus is clinically tested and naturopathic, doctor formulated. Look, I want to feel decades younger than my actual age. That's why I'm staying at the cutting edge of aging research and boosting my NAD Plus levels with Qualia NAD Plus. After just a month of Qualia NAD Plus, I'm feeling energy support and vitality return that I haven't felt in years. So to boost your NAD Plus levels up to 50%, go to qualialife.com/Jordy. I love that. For up to 50% off and use code Jordy at checkout for an additional 15% off. That's Qualia Life, spelled QUALIALIFE.com/Jordy. Go to qualialife.com/Jordy and use code Jordy, spelled JORDY, for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thanks, Qualia, for sponsoring this episode.
Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health. When you are sleeping well, you can perform at your best mentally and physically. Introducing Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. If you know me, you know that Dream has been an absolute game changer for my sleep. I drink Beam's Dream Powder each night in order to get my optimal sleep, and I have to say, I would not be recommending this if it didn't actually help me. And today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. Now available in delicious flavors like chocolate peanut butter, cinnamon cocoa, and sea salt caramel with only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. Other sleep aids could cause next day grogginess, but Dreams contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. The numbers don't lie. In a clinical study, 93% of participants reported Dream helped them get better sleep. Beam Dream is easy to add to your nighttime routine. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk, froth, and enjoy before bed. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Meidas and use code Meidas at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/MEIDAS and use code Meidas for up to 40% off.
Let's go. Shout out to you brothers right there on those ad reads. Those were fantastic. Quali has been a partner for ours for a while. Quick, funny backstory. We recently changed the code. So it's /Jordy. Shout out Qualia. And they wanted to test which code kind of works better. So I'm not saying don't go instantly right now and click on the /Jordy link and see how it performs, but they're going to let me know. So if
yeah,
you're
I said, Jordy, you get your own codes now? You get your own codes now? What are you, like Madonna? What's going on here?
And Beam's been a great partner of ours now for a while too. So excellent products. Links are in the description of the audio and the YouTube. Just click them, use our code, let them know we sent you. It really helps us out.
Also, if you A/B test me as I was starting Qualia when I did that versus now,
True.
you can see, I think, an improvement caused by Qualia. Talking about A/B testing, we've been giving the contrast between President Biden preparing for the debate, Donald Trump whining about it. Before the break, you could go back if you're just joining this a little bit late and see it. We showed Donald Trump's spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, who was invited to CNN because CNN wanted to both sides the issue, as they often do. And when they invite her on, the first thing she does is uses it to whine and attack CNN and say this is all unfair. She doesn't answer the question that she's being asked. She says the debate's going to be rigged and that Jake Tapper hates Donald Trump and therefore it's all going to be unfair. Brett, Jordy, what'd you make of that?
Team Trump is clearly afraid. I mean, you could smell it on them through the computer, through the TV, wherever you're watching this. And, it's I get it, because Trump is more unhinged than ever. I mean, we've been seeing his speeches, and that says quite a lot, because he's been unhinged for quite a long time. But when you watch him at these rallies, the guy is completely off the rails, speaking about being either electrocuted or eaten by sharks, his constant bizarre praise of Hannibal Lecter, who he calls the late great Hannibal Lecter, even though Hannibal Lecter is a fictional character who never died, and Anthony Hopkins never said nice things. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. The comments he made about migrants over the weekend, which was just abhorrent, that we'll get to shortly. And plus, when you even look at like what are the quote unquote good moments for Trump at these rallies, like what are the comments where he's actually getting applause from the audience for, right? They're all devastating for him in a debate setting. Like, could you imagine Donald Trump at the debate speaking about freeing the January 6th insurrectionists? Free him, Joe. Free him, Joe. That might work at a Trump rally. Not going to work on TV, especially with no audience and no Trumpers around him. That's going to be beamed into the homes of all these Americans who are going to be tuning in for the first time to this election, hearing Donald Trump say free the January 6th attackers, hearing Donald Trump call to not accept, saying he didn't accept the election results and refused to accept the coming election results. All of this is going to be an absolute disaster for him. And they know it, and they're worried. So like Ben was saying, like you were saying earlier, they want to A, work the refs, and B, they want to already make excuses for after the fact for when it is a terrible performance. They go, it's because CNN was unfair. They were unfair to him. And maybe they use that also as, okay, he's not doing anymore because the fake news is not going to be fair to him. They're not going to be nice to him. Plus, MAGA thrives on victimhood. There's nothing more they like more than being whiny little petulant babies. And anytime they have an opportunity to take on that role, they are so happy. And so what did Carolyn Levitt do after that CNN experience today? She did like a whole MAGA media tour whining that CNN was being unfair to her. Oh, they were so mean to me. They should apologize. I demand an apology. You have the whole brain trust of MAGA influencers who all they do is lie every single day, all the time. They take to social media and they start basically tweeting out the same exact things. You see Carolyn Levitt here kicking it off. You cut off my microphone for bringing up the debate moderators. History of anti-Trump lies. This proved our point that Trump will not be treated fairly on Thursday. Yet he is still willing to go into this 3-on-1 fight and bring his winning message to the American people, and he will win. Wow, brave, stunning.
You like how everything proves their point?
Yeah, stunning and brave. Alex Bruzowitz, one of these Trump guys. CNN cuts off Kay Levitt after she calls out Jake Tapper's anti-Trump history. Unbelievable. Now we know for certain that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash will be running interference for crooked Joe Biden Thursday. 3-on-1, but Trump will still win. Jack Posobiec, CNN KCS cuts off Trump's blah, 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 the official Trump account. And it goes on and on and on. You know, it's the same thing with all these cases, right? When you don't have the case, what do? They attack the judge. Now they're in a situation does not have platforms that are going to resonate with folks. He is a deranged candidate. He's probably one of the worst candidates in history. And so what do? They have to attack the debate moderators because it is quite literally their only move that they have. This made its way to Steve Bannon. Now you have Steve Bannon, who is, by the way, like days away from reporting for his prison sentence. He's got to report to prison by July 1st.
It's my birthday. What a great birthday present.
Good B-Day present for
Let's go.
Present for Jordy. You have Steve Bannon now. He is starting to push this whole, that Donald Trump should cancel the debate. And this is the parameters that he set. Bannon goes, if CNN and Casey Hunt do not apologize today to Donald Trump, I give them, he makes like demands, right?
Today.
Like, they have to respond today and apologize today, or Donald Trump should cancel the debate. I mean, just watch the desperation. And for those listening, the Carolyn Levitt woman is on Steve Bannon's show. This was part of her MAGA whining victim wah media tour after that CNN hit.
I've never seen such disrespect. They have never in the history of television ever taken a national press secretary and treated her with such lack of respect. Cassie Hunt owes you an apology. CNN owes you an apology today. And if we don't get that apology to Caroline Leavitt and to the Trump campaign and to MAGA today, President Trump should cancel this.
It's so pathetic. And Steve Bannon, first off, she's not a national press secretary. She's a campaign spokeswoman who was recently hired by Donald Trump in order to do exactly what she's doing here. She's not a person to be trusted. Steve Bannon is, like I said, days away from reporting for his prison sentence, and this is what he's worrying about at this time. And the whole thing is just so completely pathetic to watch, but this is MAGA. And, the point we always make here is this is not normal stuff, right? This is not Democrat, Republican, independent. This is not normal stuff. And we shouldn't accept that. Republicans should not accept this behavior. Of course, Democrats should not accept this behavior. Independent voters should look at this with the disdain that it deserves. And the media, likewise, needs to treat this for the malignant, whatever you want to call it, it is, because this is not normal.
And let's just say this too, Brett. I mean, Donald Trump's circle, they never wanted him to accept the debate. They never wanted to put him in a position where he's got to be on stage with President Biden, because they know that President Biden's going to wipe the floor with this maniac. And so when Donald Trump was goaded into accepting the terms of the debate because he can't control himself, he just cannot control himself, they started this weird smear campaign. I mean, like clockwork. We saw what they were doing the instant that he had accepted the debate. And so what we see here from Carolyn, after she goes on CNN, first off, it was 6:50 a.m. in the morning, and she's just behaving like an absolute maniac. Like, first thing out of bed, these MAGAs are out of their minds. Like, she couldn't even get out a sentence without just acting like a lunatic. Like, let's just discuss and talk about the facts. That's why we're here. Why is the first instinct to attack Jake Tapper? It's because they want to portray this 3v1 fight that Donald Trump is walking into, when it just couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, look, the parameters of the debate are very clear. Both candidates are going to get equal speaking time. The questions are going to be straightforward, right to them, and they have the opportunity to answer without any crowd noises interrupting the responses. It's like, what more could you ask for a candidate here if you could just solely rely on your mental acuity and just stating the facts? Well, Trump's team doesn't believe that he could state any facts. They're terrified that he's going to go up on some shark electrocution rant. And Brett, just one correction to your thing. He's not going to refer to the J6 hostages as attackers. He's going to call them hostages. It's going to be the first time a lot of American people hear him say those words.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, Jordy, the reason it happened at 6:30 or 6:50 a.m. is that this was planned, and Donald Trump planned it. They meet. They say, here's what we're going to do. And they want to create the option, just like we predicted, of why Donald Trump could cancel. And he can create that optionality until the last minute. So what Trump is going through in his mind now is the instinct of wanting to cancel because he knows he's going to do horrible and he's not prepared, versus his ego of this being one of the most watched things in the history of TV. So that's the strain that's actually weighing on him. His instinct is actually to cancel this, the same way he lies about testifying. The issue is that the testifying, he may have testified if it was broadcast live, and ultimately because it wasn't, that's why it was an easy decision.
He once had a very funny quote about egos here. I think it was when DeSantis was running or whatnot, and he did something and just kept stumbling. That these guys just can't control themselves. Like it is all ego. I'm not doing your perfect line justice here, but I don't think it's too late for him to back out. In my opinion, I said this last episode.
It's not too late for him to back out.
I think he's going to take this debate, then continue to complain, and they're going to point to the CNN type interviews leading up to it as substance as why, I don't know, the debate in their mind was rigged, and that's what they're going to run with.
Yeah, it's definitely not too late. He likes the drama, and he can do it at the last minute. But they're definitely ratcheting it up. And Brett, to your point that this is not normal behavior, it's not a Democrat v. Republican thing. It's a Trump MAGA thing, that everything is rigged, just like we showed you at the beginning of this episode. Trump said the Emmys were rigged, and Trump said that the all of his cases are rigged, and the Pulitzer Prize and the Academy, everything in his world has always been rigged. The Republican primary in Iowa in 2016 was rigged when he lost that. Here's Donald Trump. This is a flashback from last year. Him saying that he was going to get unfair treatment by Brett Baier as one of the reasons that he's not interested in doing any primary debates during the Republican primary here. Just watch this one.
Give me one moment to just
Yeah.
grab that one.
Yeah, grab that one in a moment. And then I want to show you why it is that Donald Trump is behaving that way. And it's because when I show you what he did in Philadelphia, when I show you what Donald Trump did in Washington, D.C., where Donald Trump said that one of the things he wants to do is he goes, I have a really good idea. We should do a migrant fight club. And we'll have the UFC fighters fight the migrants. We'll call it migrant. We'll get to that clip in just a little bit. Let me just show you where Donald Trump was whining that Fox would be unfair to him. Here, play this clip.
Then you have a hostile network like Fox. Like when I did the interview with Brett, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay, but there was nothing friendly about it. It was nasty. And I thought I did a good job. I've been given credit for doing a good job, but I've also, people said, why would you do it? Because it was really, everything was like an unfriendly. It was always, everything was unfriendly. No smiling, no, let's have fun. Let's make America great again. Everything was like a hit. So, you have a hostile network and you have people that are obviously their candidates are against you and they therefore are being hostile. And if you're leading by 30, 40, or 50 points, what's the purpose of really doing it?
Him calling the network that paid $1 billion defamation settlement to cover up for him in the 2020 election, a hostile network towards him. And then also we can't normalize that rhetoric. I mean, he's a little petulant baby. Everything they did, they weren't smiling at me. They weren't laughing at me and saying, make America great and laughing at me. I mean, what world do you occupy where that's like a thing other than the cultiest of cult worlds where you go on these right-wing shows and they go, oh, so can you do a joke? Because you're really funny. That's what he's been used to so far. And then he gives these speeches at these events. The one time he spoke in front of an event that was not MAGA, we spoke at the Libertarian Convention. They wanted to throw rubber chickens at him, so he had to ban the rubber chickens. And then they booed him, and then he started yelling at the audience, and his face turned another color orange that I hadn't seen before. But that's his behavior. That's not normal. They're going to ratchet up this. You watch what happens in the next 24 to 48 hours. They're going to say that they're going to start saying that Biden's getting the questions in advance. I mean, how difficult are the questions going to be? They're going to ask Donald Trump, Mr. Trump, do you accept the results of the 2020 election? It's so unfair. Think about that. Think about that question and how he's going to answer. Do you accept that you lost in 2020? Just think about that. That's why when I've been having a conversation with kind of DC insiders and political people, and they give me other examples, like, well, there was this debate and the Nixon debate, and there was, when Al Gore came, I go, guys, what are we talking about here? Right. I said, this is not the Nixon Kennedy. This is not Al Gore, George W. Bush. Okay. You've got Donald Trump who's saying he wants to be a dictator on day one, who says, free the hostages, Joe, who wants a migrant fight league to have UFC fighters attack the migrants, who calls for, whose language echoes that of Adolf Hitler very frequently, who talks about being electrocuted versus eaten by sharks. It's someone who doesn't even speak in complete sentences. Even that clip that we just showed you, if you were to do a transcription of that clip, you would see that he's speaking his own language that doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. He's just garbling words together, and that's what we're going to see. So it's not some normal debate at all that we can both sides. So we'll see if the debate takes place. Share what you feel in the comments below. I want to talk about this, though. I want to talk briefly about what went down in Washington, D.C., and what went down in Philly. In D.C., Trump spoke in front of a group called Faith and Freedom. This is supposed to be a Christian organization. So naturally, Donald Trump tells the crowd, which apparently finds this funny, it's like the least funny thing in the world, that he told the founder of UFC, Dana White, who also has domestic violence issues as well, that he should set up a migrant fight league. And this is what Donald Trump tells the audience at Faith and Freedom, where the UFC fighters will fight the migrants, he says. Here, play this clip.
Tough. They're so tough. Dana White. Did anyone ever hear of Dana White? He's a legend, right? UFC, ultimate fighter, ultimate fighting. And he's a fantastic man. I said, Dana, I have an idea. Why don't you set up a migrant league of fighters and have your regular league of fighters? And then you have the champion of your league. These are the greatest fighters in the world. Fight the champion of the migrants. I think the migrant guy might win. That's how tough they are. He didn't like that idea too much, but actually it's not the worst idea I've ever had.
Okay, it's horrific what he's saying, but even if you listen to him, I think the migrant guy is gonna win. I'm just saying. I mean, it's just really weird to watch that's become something normalized. There's nothing funny about that. It is incredibly xenophobic and racist and hateful and a ridiculous idea. You're the leader of the Republican Party. I think we divide the migrants. I think the migrants will win. I mean, what are we talking about here? And the way he says it, his delivery, the whole thing is very strange and very weird and incredibly just disrespectful. And again, that's the leader of the Republican Party. Here he is up there talking about rebuttal. He goes, and stupid people, I wanted to refute it. Do you know what the word rebuttal? Rebuttal. What the hell is the word rebuttal? Just watch him up here. So play a short clip of this one.
And my stupid people, when I wanted to refute it, they said, sir, don't dignify it with a rebuttal. Refutal or a rebuttal? What the hell word would that be? Rebuttal? What they'll say, he didn't know, rebuttal or refutal, but they don't know either. Sir, it should not be dignified, sir. I said, well, I got to fight that. That's the worst thing you could probably say to me would be that. He said, sir.
And he's also referring to the people who work for him as stupid people, right? So while Donald Trump denies that he's called people suckers and losers, he's calling people right there stupid people who are giving him advice, the people who work for him. And then as he's just up there talking about rebuttal or refutal, I'll show you this one too. This is where Donald Trump, he keeps going into this Hannibal Lecter story. And then he needs to let people know that he loves the story about his meeting with Hannibal Lecter, and that people are saying that it's a strange story, but he thinks it's a good story. Here, play this clip.
Whenever I say Silence of the Lamb, the fake news back there, they say, oh, he's talking about Silence of the Lamb. And I say, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. Oh, he likes Hannibal Lecter. No, they're crazy.
This is why you can say this is like any other debate that's ever happened. I mean, he was up there and he was talking about policies and things and what he's going to do. He's up there saying things like that. I'll show you more of this clip. I want to take our last break of the show, but that's why this is not normal. And the media has created this both sides narrative. I think what we're seeing, and we'll talk about this when we get back, is finally Trump's behavior. And I think it's because of the fastidiousness and the constant ringing of the bell that we do here and that others are doing about his behavior, that people are starting to say, wait a minute, this ain't normal. And we're seeing that reflected in the polls. I'll show you what the media is doing to try to now shift the narrative that their polling narrative is falling apart. Let's talk about that and more. Let's just take our last quick break of the show.
We all are operating at our highest levels all the time. Living a more heart-healthy life fuels everything you do. Introducing 3-in-1 blood pressure support plus CoQ10 from SuperBeets Heart Chews Advanced. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the grapeseed extract in SuperBeets is clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. New SuperBeets Heart Chews Advanced supports healthy CoQ10 level, an important nutrient for heart health. SuperBeets Heart Health Chews are incredibly delicious and so much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my SuperBeets Heart Chews each morning and it's really kickstarted my morning routine. After taking my SuperBeets Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and I'm game ready to take on the day. CoQ10 generates 95% of the cellular energy your heart needs, but it can decline with age, stress, and statin use. SuperBeets Heart Chews Advanced is effective and contains clinically researched ingredients. From SuperBeets, the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. Find out how you could get a free 30-day supply on bundles of new SuperBeets Heart Chews Advanced and save 15% for a limited time only by going to superbeetsradio.com, promo code Meidas. That's super, BEETS, radio.com, promo code Meidas, MEIDAS. This episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast is brought to you by Manacora Honey, also known as honey with superpowers. Let me share something sweet with you, and I mean really sweet. It's something that's become a staple in my routine, and I think you are going to love it. I'm talking about Manacora Honey. When I say honey, you might be picturing those bear-shaped bottles in the supermarket, but that is not what this is. Manacora Honey is single origin, rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you've ever had. It's supercharged with unique antioxidants and prebiotics and is 3 times more than your average honey. Manacora Honey supports immunity, aids digestion, boosts energy, and helps balance inflammation. It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 to 3 teaspoons a day. On top of that, Manacora Honey has a natural antibacterial compound called MGO, only found in Manuka honey. So if you're looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine, we found your new healthy habit. And now it's easier than ever to try Manacora Honey with the starter kit. Just head to manacora.com/Meidas to get $25 off. The starter kit comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, plus a guidebook. Now, I love the jar and squeeze bottle, but the extra pack of compostable honey sticks is perfect for whenever you're on the go. You could bring them with you when you're traveling or need a quick snack running errands, and they are the perfect energy boost if you're out for a run or at the gym. That's manukora.com/Meidas to get $25 off your starter kit. This is the ultimate honey. Indulge and try some honey with superpowers from Manacora. Look, this stuff is amazing and really provides the pump I've been looking for. I look forward to Manacora every morning. Make sure you click the link in our description or head to manacora.com/Meidas and try some out today.
Brett. Let's go. Big Brett with the back-to-back reads. I love that, man. And shout out SuperBeets. Shout out Manacora. Links are in the description of the YouTube and the audio. They've been good partners now for a while. So if you have not checked them out, definitely now is your time. Use the codes, use the links. Helps the show, and you get some great products.
Shout out to all of our partners. I wanted to say too about the Fox clip we played before of Donald Trump attacking Brett Baer and Fox News and saying that
a notorious rhino, Brett Baer.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, it's truthfully, it's a lesson to the rest of the media, right? That no matter what you do, you will never make this person happy. He will never say, oh, they were very fair to me, unless you just praise him like one of his propaganda networks. That's what he wants you to do. So there's no reason to give him extra help or no reason to think you need to balance the scales or do anything, or the Trump people are behaving this way. So that means we got to be extra hard on Biden because we don't want to show that we don't want people to think that we have any sort of bias. There's no reason to do that because you're never going to make the guy happy. Just try to get to the heart of the situation, try to get to the heart of the truth, and call the balls and strikes. And that's it. You can't worry about the fallout that you'll have from Trump world because they're going to attack you no matter what. That's like a lesson that I think everyone has to learn. They're going to attack you. They're attacking Fox. That is like a super PAC essentially for him. They're attacking Fox, who all day runs deceptive clips of Biden and pumps up Trump in the most just North Korea style way imaginable. So if he's doing that to Fox, then don't expect that you're just going to get good treatment because you're doing stuff that you think might make you feel a little more balanced.
Well, he said what he didn't like about Brett Baer's interview with him. He said that it was very serious and he was asking me questions and it wasn't like, oh, fun, let's make America great again, ha ha ha, and let's laugh. Hey, these are serious issues. This is not some weirdo reality TV. This is our reality. This is our life. You're taking away women's reproductive rights. You are destroying the middle class and you are helping decabillionaires get richer. You are screwing over our veterans. You are harming the population. You said like a miracle, COVID was all going to disappear. Should we have been, oh, ha, 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 goo, goo, gaga, make America great again? Like, is that what you find to be? Is that what you want when you go and do an interview as the leader of a political party in the United States of America in 2024, the most powerful nations in the most powerful times in history that a lot of the free world depends on, and you're the leader of one of the major political parties, and you start talking about your idea to start a migrant fight club for UFC fighters to attack migrants, do you expect the response to be, oh, that's so funny? Tell me more, Donald. Tell me more. Tell me, are you a genius because you call Nancy Pelosi Nikki Haley? Does that make you a genius, Donald? Oh, good for you, Donald. Good, Donald. You are very smart. Here, play this clip of what Donald wants. And I'm a genius. I'm pure genius. Nikki Haley, Nancy Pelosi, same person. Ha, ha, ha. Here, play this clip.
When I equated two people, I equated them. I shouldn't mention the names, but I equated Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi. I equated them. They said, oh, he doesn't understand the difference. No, I understand the difference. He doesn't understand the difference between Haley and Pelosi. No, we understand that. I understand a lot of differences. But anything you do, the fake news will take it and turn it. But with him, they take bad stuff and try and make it look good. With us, they take genius, pure genius, and they try and make it look right. They try and make it look bad. It's the exact opposite.
With the people laughing there also, there's quite literally, there's no humor in that. There's nothing funny. It's almost like from the old shows where they used to have the laugh track.
Yeah.
Like they put the laugh track in places where there's not even a joke. But that's actually real cult members who show up and find that funny, and I'm here thinking to myself, what's the joke that he says that calling Nancy Pelosi Nikki Haley is pure genius and that's hilarious. What someone explain to me the humor in that? Like, why would that trigger? Like, what's funny?
Because they just don't know how to behave like normal, like humans. It's really bizarre. Did you see the panic in Donald Trump's eyes when he said Nikki Haley's name and someone from the crowd almost started to cheer? Like there was a quick woo and he puts his hand up. He puts his hand up to silence the crowd, to silence the MAGA cult, because cheering for Nikki Haley would crush his ego as he stands on that stage. It's a really bizarre moment in that clip. And then he goes on to Pelosi. But for that split second, you see the fear in his eyes when he says Nikki Haley's name and the crowd begins to cheer. He's like, hold on.
It's an ego thing, right? Also, and it's a cult thing. The cult leader can never be wrong. The cult leader is infallible. And the cult leader got a individual confused more than 3 times in one sentence, confusing Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. Oh, it's just a joke. Get it? It's just a joke. Everybody laugh. Everybody laugh for the cult leader. He was just joking. You're so funny, cult leader. That's what it is. It's like the most bizarre cult on the planet. And I think Trump can't even fathom himself, his own decline. And he seems kind of scared about his own decline. So he has to make all these excuses up for these very bizarre incidents that keep happening on a daily basis at this point that are quite honestly kind of frightening to watch.
Yeah. So then Donald Trump goes to Philadelphia. He has one of these stunts that he does at a cheesecake shop. Of course, he picks the cheesecake shop, Tony and Luke's, whose founders were sentenced to tax fraud, who are, I think, currently incarcerated. Donald Trump claims he ate the cheesesteak and enjoyed it, but then gave another interview where he claims he didn't eat the cheesesteak. So just quite literally lies about every single thing. Can't not lie about anything. Like the way people breathe, he lies. I ate the cheesesteak. I didn't eat the cheesesteak. Okay. Then he goes in front of this crowd. And just so you see that his story about the migrant fighting is not a one-off, that this is actually something that he's pushing for. Here he is right here now in Philadelphia, pushing for the Migrant Fight League. Here, play this clip.
I told Dana White of UFC, I said, here's what we're going to do. These are tough cookies coming into our country, coming with prisons and mental institutions. I said to Dana White, UFC, he's got a big fight going on right now. He's a good friend of mine. You know what he said the other day? They said, who's the toughest person you've ever met? He said, definitely Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump. How about that? But I said, Dana, I have an idea for you to make a lot of money. You're going to go and start a new migrant fight league. Migrants, only migrants. And then at the end of the year, the champion migrant is going to fight your champion. And I hate to tell you, Dana, I think the migrant might win. That's how tough they are.
Should be noted that he's at the Leocoris Center, which is part of Temple University. Why Temple University would give him that location is itself not a great look for Temple. President Biden spoke there at the midterms in 2022, and you can see when President Biden spoke there, there was actually a full crowd. It holds about 10,000 people. Donald Trump probably only had somewhere in the range of 2,000 people who showed up. They had to basically block off all of the kind of upper deck, already a smaller facility, a college basketball facility. They blocked off all the upper decks and kind of the back areas and put flags all around it to make it seem like a bigger crowd than it was, but somewhere around 2,000 people, far less than when Biden showed up in the midterms. Then Donald Trump tries to talk about Venezuela, but he's unable to complete the sentence. So you just watch. I can't really make much sense of it. Just watch it.
So they were afraid for their lives, and think of it, they couldn't stand it. They were so afraid. I'm so afraid. Venezuela.
I mean, it's again very strange. Okay, a new CBS YouGov poll shows that 61% of young voters aged 18 to 29. Remember how the media was pushing that this demographic was running away from President Biden. Well, the new polls basically show support for President Biden exactly what the exit polls were in 2020, like basically to the exact number. So there's that. But it was interesting that one of the things I saw as these polls are starting to change and tilt in favor of President Biden is now the media is saying, which I think is an accurate thing to say, but this was not what they were saying before. They were saying, well, it all depends on election day, and polls are not a real good indicator of what's going to happen. We still feel that the enthusiasm for President Biden amongst young voters is very low and that they're not going to show up. But when the polls did not fit that narrative, you said your polls were the end all be all. And now you're saying that it actually does not reflect voter enthusiasm, which, well, frankly, what we've been saying the whole time is what matters is actual data on voting day data. That's why what we've been focused on here are all of the primaries to see if any of the media narrative shows up in the primaries. Is there a 20 to 25% protest vote against President Biden? No, but wait a minute. It is against Donald Trump. The exact narrative they were pushing at Biden is showing up that the Nikki Haley voters, the Nikki Haley voters are, or voters who just don't want to vote for Donald Trump, are these mainstream Republicans who recognize that Donald Trump is not a real conservative and that he's not a real Republican. He's a MAGA. He's something very different. And this MAGA thing is not, their parents or their Republican Party anymore. It just is what it is. Independents are recognizing it as well. That's why we're seeing these massive shifts. And I think it's just interesting to see that the media narrative changes. Well, I want to mention just very, very briefly, because I'll do a whole further hot take on it. Judge Cannon held a full day hearing, one on Friday, one today on Friday. It was Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment, claiming that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith was unlawful and special counsels shouldn't exist, despite the fact that special counsels have existed for decades and decades, and that there's clear precedent that special counsel's office can exist. So that was Friday's hearing. And then Monday's hearing, Donald Trump did a motion to dismiss on the basis that the appropriations, the money to fund the special counsel's office, was an improper appropriations and has some separation of powers issue because Congress appropriates for the DOJ, and then the DOJ provides unlimited funding for the special counsels, and somehow that is unconstitutional. These are like bizarre, frivolous arguments that shouldn't even be heard by the judge, yet alone hold a hearing on, and they should be just dismissed on the papers with very little work. And she used that hearing to attack James Pierce, with a special counsel lawyer who was arguing on behalf of Jack Smith, just berating him over and over. Don't you cut me off. You were wrong. Don't yell at me. Don't talk to me that way. Like over and over again, when James Pierce was just going over like, okay, here's the precedent. I didn't ask you for that. I mean, when I just answer the question that I'm asking you. And then in the afternoon, she had a very hearing of smaller duration on Jack Smith's request to modify the conditions of Donald Trump's release so Trump can't lie and claim he's the victim of assassination attempts by the DOJ and FBI, because that's imperiling the lives of FBI and DOJ agents. And when special counsel Jack Smith's team was arguing that, look, this is hurting the lives of law enforcement, she basically told them to be quiet and shut up and to stop talking, and that they don't know what they're doing, and that, well, I've already redacted their names, so shouldn't that be sufficient? And they're like, no, this is fairly unprecedented, Judge Cannon. Like, this is not something any other judge would modify the conditions. We're talking about a criminal defendant here. So the one benefit of this may be, and I've been speaking to a lot of federal legal practitioners who feel confident that if she were to rule against Jack Smith on the issue of modifying the conditions of Trump's release to protect law enforcement whose life has been placed in jeopardy, that can form the basis of an emergency writ where Jack Smith can go to the 11th Circuit and say, look, this judge is placing the lives of law enforcement in jeopardy based on her behavior. Remove her from the case because of what she's doing here. And it can give the 11th Circuit finally that opportunity. It wouldn't be a direct interlocutory appeal. It would still be a writ, which has a significantly higher standards. But the basis for the writ would be she's actually potentially resulting in law enforcement getting killed by her behavior. I'll mention as a footnote, even though it's part of a broader hot take that I did, that there was a exclusive that ABC News had about Donald Trump and Waltine Nauta sneaking back to Mar-a-Lago from Bedminster in mid-July of 2022 after the subpoena was served on them, before the search warrant was executed, but after the subpoena, to hide more boxes and to hide more documents. And Jack Smith apparently has text messages with Waltine Nauta making the shush sound, the shush emoji, about to one of the other co-defendants, Carlos de Oliveira, about them sneaking together in Mar-a-Lago to deal with the box issue. Shh, we're dealing with the box issue. So that's what's going on in Judge Cannon's court. Brett, some economic news to report as well. What do you think?
Yeah, well, just so frustrating that, and having likely the most important of all the cases with this documents case, at least as far as our national security is concerned, seeing it in the hands of a judge like Judge Cannon, who is just a complete disaster. It's just so disheartening. I'm curious to see what happens next and how Jack Smith reacts to it. In economic news, there's an analysis that you may not even need an analysis for, because we've been seeing the numbers as they come. But the analysis is that, surprise, surprise, Donald Trump ran up the national debt twice as much as Joe Biden. This is a new analysis of fiscal track records by the nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. This is due in part, will due almost entirely to Donald Trump's tax cuts and spending deals struck during his 4 years in the White House. So by the numbers, Trump added $8.4 trillion in borrowing over a 10-year window, the CRFB report says, and Biden's figure clocks in at $4.3 trillion with 7 months remaining. And if you even take out the COVID relief spending from the tally, the numbers are $4.8 trillion for Trump and $2.2 trillion for Biden. One of the fascinating things about this election compared to other elections, it's something that I brought up before, is that this is not an election of hypothetical scenarios. This is an election where we have a scorecard for both candidates. We could see how they each performed. We could see how they each handled crises. We could see how they each handled the economy. We could see across the board. And so you've got to take the reality into account when there are no hypotheticals to be had here. And like this, Moody's is saying that inflation, once again, surprise, surprise, would reaccelerate if Trump won the White House and Republicans won control of Congress. In the new report, it said that Trump's economic plan of slashing taxes for the rich, spiking import tariffs, and instituting mass deportations of immigrant workers would trigger a recession by mid-2025, with an economy that would slow to an average 1.3% annual growth. According to Moody's, next year under a Trump administration, inflation would rise to 3.6%, above the 2.4% forecast that is forecasted next year under Biden. The U.S. would have 3.2 million fewer jobs if Trump were to become president, and a 4.5% unemployment rate at the end of Trump's term, compared to Biden's 26 straight months of employment under 4%. So there is more economic analysis. And one of the fascinating things that I saw today, it was this video. It's of Jeffrey Sonnenfeld. He is the Yale School of Management, the Senior Associate Dean for Leadership. And he was speaking about Fortune 500 CEOs and their support of Donald Trump. And in any normal year, these CEOs would lean Republican by like 60 to 70%, if not more. These CEOs would lean Republican. And we all know that Trump's policies of having these insane tax cuts for the wealthy and these tariff policies are they're regressive policies that hurt the working class and help rich billionaires by a vast margin. So you would think that these CEOs, of course, would favor Donald Trump because it's good for their own pocketbook. But what the CEOs are quickly realizing is that an economy in Donald Trump's hands would be such a disaster, and that all those benefits they may get from tax cuts would be completely wiped out by the fact that Donald Trump would probably completely collapse the economy. So it's like, how bad of a candidate do you have to be as a Republican, offering these people the world and basically millions or billions of dollars to lose their support? But that's what just happened. And so Jeffrey Sonnenfeld went on CNBC earlier today, and he said that there are no Fortune 500 CEOs supporting Trump. Not a single one. Here's the clip.
We look back into the data, and we're looking at this now for the last 4 months. We've been pointing out that there are no Fortune 500 CEOs who are supporting former President Trump, and that is a historic break, going back to William Howard Taft and through Calvin Coolidge and Ronald Reagan and the Bushes and everything. Is that it's been anywhere from 40 to 60% public and financial support. It's zero now. And it was zero in 2016. And the Trump economic package frightens them. It's extremely inflationary. The tariffs, 10% across the board on all imports, that's just crazy. It leads to a 3% increase for sure in inflation and plunging in the GDP. Right. And that's before retaliatory gestures. The increase in the deficit, he wants to cut $5 trillion of taxes with no commensurate cut in expenditures. So these are problems. He doesn't believe in the independence
but
of the Fed.
What do you say to the CEOs? There's a lot of CEOs who are watching us now, probably watching you speaking, saying, but you know what? I don't like the Biden administration when it comes to the regulatory regime right now. I worry about the tax policy and what's going to happen if the Trump taxes roll off in 2025 and what that debate looks like. I mean, there are folks, as you said, 70% of the CEO community, Republicans. Do they turn out to be reluctant Biden voters? Do they not vote at all? I mean, where do you think they land?
They'll be reluctant Biden voters. They don't want the fabric of society pulled apart.
It's such a crazy way to ask the question. Crazy way to ask the question by the Andrew Sorkin guy at CNBC. The regulatory regime under Biden. It's like, why are you putting your finger on this? Just ask the question without using all these weird loaded terms. That
the regime, Brett. The regime.
It's so bizarre. But that's like a big thing for somebody like Jeffrey Sonnenfeld to say. I mean, this is not like a liberal guy. This is a guy who's been in the business world for a long time. This is a well-respected guy who has advised presidents, by the way, of both parties. He has advised George H.W. Bush. He advised Trump. He advised Clinton. He's advised Biden before. This is a guy who is very in touch with the business community and with the CEOs. And we saw, remember, that meeting with Donald Trump and the CEOs, which he held at this big thing. he left that meeting and the CEOs immediately went to the press and told the press how meandering Trump was, how none of his policies made any sense, how anytime they tried to get him to give him some specifics on how he came up with an idea for a specific policy, Trump couldn't answer it and would just say things like, I don't know, it sounded good. And the CEOs were getting nervous just sitting there in the room with him. And so it's pretty stunning that you could offer people, like I said before, millions, if not billions of dollars. And they say, we're going to pass on this one, actually, because they know how devastating he would be for the economy at large. And ultimately, what CEOs and frankly, what Americans want, this might be the one area where these two overlap in the Venn diagram, is folks want stability, right? Folks want to know what is coming tomorrow. They want somebody with a steady hand. That's true in the business world. I think that's true in our lives. And Biden is like the definition of steady hand. He's the definition of stability. And Trump is obviously the definition of the opposite. He's Mr. Erratic. He's Mr. Unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. The only guarantee is you know he's going to screw things up.
Democracy, stability, normalcy, and our freedoms. I think you're going to see President Biden talk about all of those points and make it very clear the contrast between him and Donald Trump. And I think we're going to hear President Biden talk about as well, hey, I used to work with Republicans all the time. I try to do bipartisan things all the time. This is some new stuff right here where they're saying kill the immigration bill because they want America to suffer because they think that's a winning issue for Donald Trump. And their behavior to him is something I've never seen in my career before. I think he's going to say, look, people, we need to focus on American values like democracy and supporting our allies. We need to guarantee women's reproductive rights. We need to focus on bottom up, middle out, where all Americans can enjoy the success of our nation. And that's a work in progress, but it's something that I will dedicate my time to doing each and every day. So we will see you on Thursday on the MeidasTouch show, pre-show, post-show. Be a historic episode there. Of course, we're going to be doing the hot takes throughout the week. So make sure you're subscribed to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. It's free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as Jordy said at the outset, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast as well. It really helps in a bigger way than you may even think if you subscribe to the MeidasTouch on audio, because it allows us to be very competitive in all of the audio charts. And then that allows people who didn't know about the network to learn about it because they see us in those charts. And then they start getting exposure to the MeidasTouch network. And then the family of other shows that we're building out thanks to your support. So we're grateful for your support at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. That allows this network to grow the way it is. We've got an incredible short that we're going to be releasing tomorrow that is just so great. That's going back to maybe some of the old Meidas style videos, stylistically at least, that you may be used to. So we're dropping that tomorrow. But the growth of this network is made possible by you. We don't have outside investors. We build it through emojis, and we build it through pro-democracy sponsors. And one of the other ways we build it is through Patreon. So if you are able to join now. It goes a long, long way to help. Patreon.com/Meidas. One of we've been building out recently is the Michael Cohen YouTube channel. That's quickly on its way to 50,000 subscribers in 2 weeks.
Growing
I think we
fast,
can get
growing fast, guys.
He's already at 22,000 or 23,000 subscribers already. But just go to on YouTube at The Michael Cohen Show, partnered with the MeidasTouch Network. Go to at The Michael Cohen Show on YouTube. Subscribe there. Adam Mockler did that incredible interview with Brian Glenn, Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, who couldn't handle our Gen Z reporter, Adam Mockler, asking very basic questions. So don't just subscribe to the Show. Subscribe to the Adam Mockler YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel. Subscribe to True Crime MTN's YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Coalition of the Sane YouTube channel. Subscribe to all the MeidasTouch YouTube channels. The Tennessee Brando YouTube channel, that's growing rapidly, the Tennessee Brando channel. Subscribe to all of those. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're so grateful for all of your support. You mean the world to us. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Standing strong against the fascists, we sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstalllenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Midas Mighty. Let's use our power well.